Gravity Circuit is a recently released game by Domesticated Ant Games. When I originally wrote this script, I compared it to Mega Man like a billion times. So this first section of the video is now going to be dedicated to avoiding Mega Man comparisons. And then the second half of this short video will be about being open with its comparisons. And then this also allows me to include minor spoilers for the second half. So I will verbally warn you when that time comes. You play as a heroic robot named Kai, tasked with taking down 8 of his former comrades that threaten the world. The game functions primarily with a melee system. Kai will be punching his enemies, trying to convert damage into burst for his burst meter so he can commit to using special moves assigned to certain inputs. These special moves are purchased from a vendor in between missions. What's particularly enjoyable here is that the tools given for combat are varied and fighting game inspired. You'll learn uppercuts and grabs and big projectiles or other maneuvers that may benefit you, such as an emergency heal or an instant platform. Bosses are particularly satisfying with this combat format, forcing you to engage in their movesets, but also encourage your moves to be used because they often lead to big damage. The game is an action platformer, and the primary modes of movement are going to be a dash into a run, a slide, or a chain whip that is most often used for grappling onto ceilings and walls as a hook. You'll be swinging all along levels that require tight execution, but also leave reasonable room. The game isn't particularly difficult, at least as far as the games in this genre go. Maybe by the end, the platforming segments can be a tad overbearing, but there's also often alternative choices to get past these segments. And then for the initial 8 stages, it's really well themed. Your primary mode of combat is punching, so you're forced to get comfortable with your mobility options and burst options to compensate. The music is really solid, if not great at times, and the art hits the right dose of inspired nostalgia while having an art direction that still feels like its own. The moments in between the main stages also allow for the player to purchase chips to further customize their setup. They'll also allow for things like a tighter grip on walls or a whip that does more damage, or longer reach with your fists. Every single one of them has a clear utility to them, and you can switch both chips and movesets whenever after purchasing them. You purchase chips not with the typical currency. Instead, you purchase chips with rescuing comrades and levels. They're hidden in little obstacle moments or off the beaten path segments that test your abilities further. This is a great addition and a nice twist. This game in general is about nice twists. Overall, I would recommend purchasing Gravity Circuit. It is $16.99 full price. Your mileage will vary depending on how much you love the genre and its inspirations. But even if you're slightly interested in retro genre revivals, this is an instant hit in my book compared to some less inspired entries. Okay, so now it's time for the spoiler/Mega Man segment of the video. So out and out, this is claimed by many to be a Mega Man-like, and this is true. However, it's also true, but to the fans of the Mega Man franchise, you're probably seeing something beyond just a generic classic Mega Man influence. What a Mega Man-like is not just fucking Mega Man 2. This game actually feels like an X or a Zero title. The dash that turns into a run is pretty much the same momentum as X's dash, and the game's formula for melee combat is just like a Mega Man stage designed with Zero in mind. Fighting game dragon punches or uppercuts are no stranger to the X games or Zero. Likewise, you probably might have immediately seen the chain whip as almost identical to Zero's from the Zero games. And you're absolutely right, though I would say this game does a lot more with it as a core moveset. You'll often be using it, whereas you'll only just sometimes use it during a Zero game. Kai doesn't have the weapon variety of a Zero, but the expanded movesets that reflect fighting games really help, especially for the bosses, which are less rock, paper, scissors element focused and instead require even a basic level of a moveset knowledge. And the 8 bosses and their stages do have classic influence. Playing through a stage or seeing a boss, you'll see some direct influences or homages. You may go, oh, this feels like a Junkman stage meets Spark Man, or this boss feels like Gyro Man meets Storm Eagle. Especially in the last bits of the game where it becomes much more like a Wily Castle or a Sigma Tower. Those segments you'll see direct portions of, say, X. Or some story elements that may even resemble a Legends game. The color palettes and detail also look like an X game at points, and the whole pace of it feels like a much more faster paced action genre game. And a really good tip off of the X influence is also the ride armors. The ride armor segments are also really fun for variety and a good buffer for difficulty. It's always little things like that that make the game. But also what's really special about this game is the influences that feel considered for modern sensibilities, and also the real limited abilities of Kai. Action is always direct, and you have to commit to every decision. You may have noticed during the rescue chip moment that it sounds similar to X6's rescuing of Reploids. It's similar to that, but way more forgiving and much more of a general reward system. Likewise, the base that you return to between missions feels like Zero's home base, where he would talk to CL before missions, and CL would tell you what's going on and all that. The person telling you this in this game is also even named like Colonel. So everything feels like a vague reference, but it's never, heavy-handed, and everything still feels fresh. I would recommend this game to a Mega Man fan because, wow, it is a really well designed rush of precision platforming and action. The game is beautiful and really moves this specific kind of genre forward. You can buy Gravity Circuit today.